Hello, this is Joe Nicasio, and I wanted to talk today a little bit about self-reliance and how self-reliance trumps relying on others. So I have 15 ways for you to move towards self-reliance. But before I go into those 15 ideas or techniques, I would like to discuss why is self-reliance so darn important. Sometimes we just want to move away from depending on others. And I'm not saying that you should always be in the giving mode, but you shouldn't always be in the receiving mode either. So self-reliance makes it so you don't have to depend on others or rely on others. When you can't rely on yourself, you have a certain amount of uncertainty. I mean, who can you really count on if you can't count on yourself? When we're self-reliant, we thrive, we prosper, and we can be a good provider. But if we're not self-reliant, we end up being a poor provider for others. Ultimately, if we're depending on others and not depending on ourselves, if we're reliant on others and not self-reliant, it really sets us up to play the victim and living much less than our potential and playing small with our lives. But if you get this right, if you can get more self-reliance in your life, it's godly, it's strong to be self-reliant. When you're self-reliant, you have more self-confidence and certainty that you can handle anything that comes your way. When you're more self-reliant, you end up being a good provider. And all this leads towards, living life more fully, prospering more fully, being more charitable, and becoming a philanthropist. We want to get to a place where we assume responsibility for every part of our life. T. Harv Eker says, when you blame others, you're slitting your own financial throat. And I agree with him. So let's get into it. What are some of these techniques that you can do to move towards self-reliance? First of all, number one, get out of debt. I think there's a scripture that says the borrower is the servant to the lender. I have a friend who was from Switzerland, and he was telling me the difference between mentality in Switzerland and United States. He said in Switzerland, people save to buy a car, and then they buy the car. In America, they buy the car and they finance it, and they become in debt. So the goal is to be debt-free and pay for everything in cash with money you've saved up front. This is one powerful step you can do to move towards self-reliance. The second thing you can do to become more self-reliant is to learn new skills. It's not always the best if you have to go to somebody else for everything in your life. The more skills that you have, the more you can do things on your own, and you don't need others. The third thing you can do to become more self-reliant is to simplify your life. When life is simple, it's easy to rely on yourself. The more complicated things are, the more you have to depend on others. Simplify, simplify, simplify. The fourth thing you can do to become more self-reliant is read good books that teach you new skills. I love this idea of time binding, which I learned from the book People in Quandaries by Wendell Johnson. The whole idea of time binding is somebody could live 70 or 80 years to learn life lessons, and they can put them in a book that you could read in 3 or 4 hours. What a great shortcut. Learn in 3 hours what it took somebody 80 years to learn. That's amazing. Reading books from experts helps transfer their expertise to you, which makes you more self-reliant. The fifth thing you can do to become more self-reliant is learn to cook. Isn't it crazy that we have to rely on other chefs and other people to cook our meals? It doesn't have to be that way. There is a time and a place to eat out, but it's also really nice to be able to cook your own meal. If you can't fry your own egg for breakfast, you're not very self-reliant. Pick up the cooking skills, and that's a great survival skill. You know, my friend Rick Aaron says there's 2 survival skills, cooking and killing, which is, another one of the ways that you can become more self-reliant. Learn how to cook, learn how to forage, learn how to capture your own food. Maybe you don't have to do that every day, but it's a great skill to have, and it makes you more self-reliant. The 7th way for you to become more self-reliant is to grow a garden, plant a garden. You know, it's really nice when you got food growing on your own property or the property that you have available to you. If you can grow some food, do it. It's easy to do, and it will make you more self-reliant. It'll give you comfort to know that some meals come from the earth and not from the cash register. The 8th thing you can do to become more self-reliant is put together a self-reliance plan. What is your plan to, we need food, shelter, clothing. Do you have tents? Do you have survival items? Do you have survival money? Do you have things together? If you have a plan, there's more chance that you'll be able to execute that plan when it's time to survive, when it's time to be more self-reliant. The 9th thing you can do to become more self-reliant is to have a first aid kit. Learn some basic first aid. Going to the doctor can be very expensive, and sometimes it's just not necessary for small things. If you can handle your own small, minor medical needs and have a first aid kit, this is a great way to save a little bit of money and become more self-reliant. Of course, if you have serious medical problems, go see a doctor. We don't have all the expertise of surgery and prescription medications and all the things that we need to be healthy. So just know what you can do and what you can't do, and just ramp up your skills to do a little bit more on your own. The 10th thing you can do to become more self-reliant is to develop your creativity. Creative problem solving will get you out of a lot of jams. It's great when you can solve your own problems instead of relying on others to solve your problems for you. So creative problem solving is a wonderful self-reliant skill and survival skill. The 11th thing you can do for moving towards self-reliance is to have some emergency rations, at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of food supplies, because if a flood happens or a fire happens or for some reasons a storm comes through and the grocery stores are not available, it's nice to know, to have comfort knowing that you can rely on your food reserves. Having some food reserves helps you become more self-reliant. Here's number 12. The 12th way you can move towards self-reliance, and this is a big one, and that's called stay healthy. We talked earlier about using doctors versus self-care, but if you're stretching and you're doing some strength work and you're flexible and you got your cardio and you got your strength and you're eating good food and you're getting plenty of rest, you're not going to need doctors. You're not going to need the hospital, because you've got self-reliance in your health care, And preventative care, you know, it's that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Take care of yourself so you don't have to rely on doctors and other people. The 13th way that you can become more self-reliant is to have a little cash stash. You know, when, you know, they call it rainy day money. Look, when something bad happens, it's nice to have a little cash stash. If you don't, you're going to have to go to other people. If you have that cash stash, you can be more self-reliant. Number 14, and this is the one that's my pet project, and that is create your own business. You know, if you can make an extra $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month, self-reliance is better than employer reliance. You should be able to have a skill that you can trade for cash or for barter so that you can get everything you want in life. If you don't have the ability to transact with other human beings and profit from those transactions, you're really going to be employer reliant. This is a huge skill, is the ability to generate cash on demand by serving other people with something that's valuable and unique and special that you offer. And so when you create your own business and move towards self-reliance, this eliminates or reduces your need to rely on others. And number 15 is control your own thoughts. When you control your own thoughts, you become more self-reliant, and there's no need to control other people. Being impoverished kind of puts you in a position where you have to control other people to get what you want. When you can control your own mind, your own thoughts, your own actions, you can manifest everything and anything that you want, and that you don't need to do it through control over others. You can do it through free will and free agency. So let's wrap this up. You know, look, you don't have to be self-reliant. You can rely on others. You can, you know, if you're not self-reliant, you're employer reliant, or you're government reliant, or you're church reliant, or you're charity reliant, or you know, you're panhandler reliant, and those things suck. If you get this right, you know, you can become strong. You can have more confidence. You can have more certainty. And you can become a good provider, and better than that, you can start living your life more fully. You can be more charitable, and you know, ultimately, you can become a philanthropist, and you can leave a legacy of doing something great with your life. So I hope these stirred your imagination. I hope this gave you some ideas of how you can become more self-reliant. Self-reliance is a worthwhile goal, and I just want to encourage you to start looking at life and continue to ask yourself, how can I become more and more self-reliant? This is Joe Nicasio from EmployeeEscapePlan.com, and I want to just wish you a good day, and I want to just wish you the ability to, God bless you, and make it an awesome day.